What happens when Hollywood royalty walks onto a daytime stage expecting the red carpet treatment, only to discover the host refuses to play along? In just 37 seconds, one comment would turn a friendly interview into the most explosive meltdown in talk show history. Kelly Clarkson sat in her signature bright chair, smiling at the cameras as the audience settled into their seats. The energy in the studio felt electric. Everyone knew this was going to be a big interview. Meghan Markle was scheduled to appear, and the producers had promised an intimate conversation about her life, her choices, and her truth. The band played its upbeat tune as Meghan walked out onto the stage. She wore a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than most people make in a month. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. She waved to the audience with a practiced smile, the kind that looks warm but doesn't quite reach the eyes. Kelly stood up to greet her guest, extending her hand for a friendly shake. Meghan took it briefly, barely making contact, before pulling away and settling into her chair. She crossed her legs and adjusted her dress, taking her time to get comfortable while Kelly waited. "Welcome to the show," Kelly said, her voice cheerful and genuine. "We are so excited to have you here." Meghan smiled that same practiced smile. "Thank you for having me. Although I must say, I expected a slightly larger chair. This feels a bit cramped." The audience laughed nervously. Kelly's smile didn't waver. "Well, we keep all our chairs the same size. Equality and all that." "Of course," Meghan replied, her tone suggesting she didn't quite believe it. Kelly moved forward with her first question, pulling out her note cards. "So, let's dive right in. You've been through so much in the public eye. How do you stay grounded through all the attention and criticism?" Meghan leaned forward slightly. "You know, Kelly, it's interesting that you asked that, because I think there's a difference between criticism and persecution. What I've experienced is not just people disagreeing with me. It's a targeted campaign to destroy my character." "I hear you," Kelly said, nodding. "Public life can be really tough, but don't you think everyone in the spotlight faces some level of that? I mean, I've had my share of nasty comments over the years." Meghan's expression hardened just a fraction. "With all due respect, Kelly, I don't think you can compare your experience to mine. You've always been accepted. You've always been welcomed. You don't know what it's like to be on the outside." The audience went quiet. Kelly maintained her composure, though something shifted in her eyes. "I grew up in Texas with no money, raised by a single mom. I've been criticized for my weight, my voice, my choices. I've been told I'm not pretty enough, not thin enough, not good enough. So actually, I do know what it's like to feel like an outsider." Meghan waved her hand dismissively. "That's different. You're talking about show business. I'm talking about institutional prejudice." Kelly took a breath. "I respect your experience. I do. But I think we can acknowledge that different people face different challenges without dismissing each other's pain." "Easy for you to say when you've benefited from the system," Meghan shot back. The tension in the room was thick now. Kelly glanced at her producers off camera, but she pressed on. "Let's talk about your charity work. I know that's something you're passionate about." Meghan's face brightened slightly. "Yes, finally a real question. My charity work is the most important thing in my life. I've dedicated myself to helping those who don't have a voice." "That's beautiful," Kelly said. "Can you tell us about some of the organizations you work with?" Meghan started listing various causes, her voice taking on a rehearsed quality. She talked about empowerment and advocacy and making a difference. But when Kelly tried to ask a follow-up question about specific actions or results, Meghan cut her off. "I don't think you understand the scope of what I'm trying to do here," Meghan said. "This isn't about numbers or statistics. It's about changing hearts and minds." "Of course," Kelly replied. "But I think people do like to hear about the concrete impact. Like, how many people have been helped, or what specific programs you've implemented." Meghan's jaw tightened. "You're trying to reduce my work to a spreadsheet. That's exactly the problem with people like you." "People like me?" Kelly asked, her tone still calm, but with an edge now. People who've never had to fight for anything, Meghan said. Everything's been handed to you. You won a singing competition, and suddenly you're America's sweetheart. You don't know what it means to struggle. The audience gasped. Kelly's smile finally faded. I won that singing competition because I worked my entire life for it. I sang in bars and churches and anywhere that would have me. I supported my family. I fought for every single opportunity. And I did it without tearing other people down. Meghan laughed, but there was no humor in it. Please, you're going to lecture me about tearing people down? Your entire career is built on being likable, on being safe, on never challenging anything. I challenge things all the time, Kelly said, her voice firm. But I do it with respect. I do it without making myself the victim of every story. There it is, Meghan said, pointing at Kelly. That's what people always say when they want to silence women who speak up. Call them victims. Make them seem weak. Kelly leaned forward in her chair. I'm not trying to silence you. I'm trying to have a conversation. But you came on this show with an agenda, and it wasn't to have a real discussion. My agenda? Meghan's voice rose. My agenda is to tell the truth. Something you clearly can't handle. The truth? Kelly replied. Or your version of it? Because from where I'm sitting, you've spent this entire interview dismissing my experiences, insulting me, and acting like you're the only person who's ever faced hardship. Meghan stood up abruptly. I don't have to sit here and be attacked. You're not being attacked, Kelly said, remaining seated. You're being asked questions. There's a difference. This is exactly what I'm talking about, Meghan said, her voice getting louder. This is the kind of treatment I've had to endure. You invite me here under the pretense of a friendly conversation, and then you ambush me. Kelly finally stood up too. Meghan, I asked you about your charity work and your experiences. Those are standard interview questions. If that feels like an ambush to you, maybe the problem isn't the questions. The audience was completely silent now. Everyone could feel the situation spiraling out of control. Meghan grabbed her purse from beside the chair. You know what? I've done hundreds of interviews with people far more important than you, and I've never been treated with such disrespect. Disrespect? Kelly's voice was incredulous now. You've spent the last 15 minutes telling me I don't know struggle, that my career was handed to me, that I'm part of some system designed to keep you down, and I'm the one being disrespectful? You wouldn't understand, Meghan said, slinging her purse over her shoulder. You're too comfortable in your privilege to see it. Kelly shook her head. I grew up in a town where we barely had enough to eat some weeks. I worked multiple jobs while trying to make it in music. I've been told no 1,000 times. I've been rejected and criticized and doubted. But I didn't use that as an excuse to treat other people badly. How dare you, Meghan snapped. You have no idea what I've been through. You're right. I don't, Kelly said. Because every time I try to ask you about it, you either make it about how much worse you have it than everyone else, or you attack me for asking. Meghan took a step toward Kelly, her face flushed with anger. This interview is over, and trust me, everyone is going to hear about how I was treated here today. They're already hearing it, Kelly said, gesturing to the cameras that were still rolling, and they can decide for themselves who's being unreasonable. Unreasonable? Meghan's voice reached a peak. You bring me on your little show, your cute little daytime program, and you think you can talk to me like I'm one of your regular guests? Do you know who I am? Kelly crossed her arms. Yeah, I do. You're someone who agreed to come on this show for an interview. Same as every other guest. Nobody gets special treatment here. Special treatment? Meghan laughed bitterly. I don't want special treatment. I want basic respect. Something you clearly don't know how to give. I've been nothing but respectful, Kelly said, her patience clearly wearing thin. I welcomed you. I asked you thoughtful questions, and I listened to your answers. What you wanted was someone to just agree with everything you say and never push back. That's not an interview. That's a monologue. Meghan pointed a finger at Kelly. You're just like all the rest. You smile and pretend to be nice, but underneath it, you're just another person trying to take me down. Nobody's trying to take you down, Kelly said, exasperation creeping into her voice. But you're doing a pretty good job of it yourself right now, the audience murmured. Some people looked uncomfortable. Others looked shocked. Meghan turned to the audience. You all see this, right? You see how she's treating me? The audience didn't respond. The silence was deafening. Kelly addressed the audience directly. Folks, I think we all see what's happening here. I tried to have a respectful conversation, and it turned into something else entirely. Meghan whipped back around to face Kelly. Don't you dare. Try to make me look like the bad guy here. You invited me on this show, knowing exactly what you were going to do. What was I going to do? Kelly asked. Ask you questions? Yeah, that's kind of how interviews work. Mock me, Meghan said. Belittle me. Make me look foolish in front of your audience. Kelly threw her hands up. You're doing that all by yourself. I didn't have to do anything. That's it, Meghan said, her voice shaking with rage. I am leaving, and my lawyers will be hearing about this. This is defamation. This is slander. Kelly looked directly at Meghan. It's only slander if it's not true, and everything that's happened here is on camera for everyone to see. Meghan started walking toward the exit, her heels clicking loudly on the studio floor. She stopped and turned back one more time. You know what your problem is, Kelly. You're threatened by strong women who don't need your approval. Kelly didn't move from her spot. No, Meghan, I love strong women. I'm a strong woman. What I don't love is people who use their platform to play the victim while treating others terribly. There's a difference. I am a victim, Meghan shouted. And the fact that you can't see that proves my point. Being a victim and acting like a victim are two different things, Kelly said quietly. And right now, you're choosing to act like one. Meghan's face went red. How dare you? You have no right to judge me. I'm not judging you, Kelly said. I'm responding to how you've treated me for the last 20 minutes. You came on my show, insulted me repeatedly, dismissed my life experiences, and now you're storming off like I did something wrong. That's not me judging you. That's me reacting to your behavior. My behavior? Meghan was nearly screaming now. My behavior is a response to years of mistreatment and lies and attacks. You wouldn't last one day in my shoes. Kelly's voice remained steady. Maybe not, but I also wouldn't go on someone's show and treat them the way you've treated me today. Meghan grabbed the microphone pack from her dress and yanked it off, tossing it onto the chair. I'm done. I'm done with this show. I'm done with you. And I'm done with people who refuse to see the truth. The truth is standing right in front of everyone, Kelly said. They can see it for themselves. Meghan stormed toward the studio exit. One of the producers tried to stop her, tried to calm her down, but she pushed past. Get out of my way. I'm leaving. Kelly stood in the middle of the stage, watching as her guest disappeared through the door. The audience sat in stunned silence. Nobody seemed to know what to do or say. Kelly took a deep breath and turned back to the cameras. Well, folks, that was unexpected. Someone in the audience started clapping, then another person, then another. Soon the entire studio was applauding, not for the drama, but for Kelly's composure in the face of such hostility. Kelly held up her hand to quiet them down. Thank you, but that's not necessary. Look, I want to be clear about something. I don't take joy in what just happened. I genuinely wanted to have a good conversation. But I also can't pretend that behavior is okay. She walked back to her chair and sat down, looking directly into the camera. We've all been in situations where someone treats us badly and we don't know how to respond. Maybe we stay quiet to keep the peace. Maybe we fight back and make things worse. I try to find the middle ground, stand up for myself without being cruel, defend my boundaries without attacking someone else. The audience listened, hanging on every word. What you just saw was someone who came here with expectations that I couldn't meet, Kelly continued. She wanted validation without questions, agreement without discussion, and when she didn't get that, she lashed out. I've seen it before. We all have. And the hard truth is, you can't control how other people behave. You can only control how you respond. She paused, gathering her thoughts. I could have yelled back. I could have been mean, but that's not who I am. That's not what this show is about. We treat people with respect here, even when they don't return it. Because at the end of the day, you have to be able to look at yourself in the mirror. The audience applauded again, this time more enthusiastically. Kelly smiled, a real smile this time. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have some music and maybe something a little less intense. Stick around. The cameras cut away and the studio lights dimmed slightly. Kelly slumped back in her chair, finally allowing herself to exhale. Her producers rushed over to check on her. "Are you okay?" one of them asked. Kelly nodded. "Yeah, I'm fine. That was wow. That was something." "You handled it perfectly," another producer said. "Seriously, you were incredible." Kelly shook her head. "I just did what felt right. I wasn't going to let someone come on here and disrespect me like that. But I also wasn't going to stoop to that level." The makeup artist came over to touch up Kelly's face before they went back on air. "Honey, you're a class act. Don't let anyone tell you different." "Thanks," Kelly said. "I just hope people understand that I tried. I really tried to make that work." "Everyone saw you try," the producer assured her. "And everyone saw her refuse to meet you halfway." Kelly took a sip of water and looked at the empty chair where her guest had been sitting just moments before. The microphone pack still lay there, abandoned. It felt symbolic somehow. A conversation discarded. An opportunity wasted. "Should we address it more when we come back?" Kelly asked her team. The head producer shook his head. "I think you said what needed to be said. Now we move on. Show everyone that we're bigger than the drama." Kelly agreed. "Yeah, you're right. Let's get back to what this show is supposed to be. About joy, music, real conversations." The stage manager counted down. "Back in 5, 4, 3. Kelly straightened up in her chair, her professional smile returning. The cameras came back on, and she launched into the next segment like nothing had happened. Because that's what professionals do. They handle the chaos, they stand their ground, and then they move forward. In the control room, the director and producers were already reviewing the footage. They knew this was going to be big. The confrontation, the walkout, Kelly's measured response. It was the kind of moment that would be replayed and discussed for weeks. But more than that, it was a moment that showed something important. It showed that kindness doesn't mean being a doormat. That being nice doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. That you can stand up for yourself without losing your dignity. The rest of the show went smoothly. Kelly performed a song with one of her musical guests. She did a cooking segment that had the audience laughing. She reminded everyone why they loved watching her in the first place. As the show wrapped and the final credits rolled, Kelly stood on the stage, waving goodbye to her audience. They gave her a standing ovation, longer and more enthusiastic than usual. They were supporting her, thanking her for not backing down. Backstage, Kelly's team gathered around her. "That was one for the history books," someone said. Kelly laughed. "Yeah, definitely not how I planned to spend my afternoon." "The way you handled it, though," her publicist said. "That's going to be the story. Not what she said, but how you responded." Kelly hoped that was true. She hadn't wanted drama. She hadn't wanted conflict. But when it came, she had faced it head-on with grace and honesty. As she packed up her things and prepared to leave the studio, Kelly thought about the conversation that never was. The real discussion they could have had if egos and defensiveness hadn't gotten in the way. The connection that might have been possible if both people had come to the table with open minds. But that wasn't what happened. And sometimes in life, you don't get the outcome you hoped for. Sometimes people disappoint you. Sometimes conversations fall apart. And all you can do is handle it with as much integrity as you can muster. Kelly walked out of the studio into the fading afternoon light. Tomorrow there would be headlines and hot takes and endless commentary. But tonight, she could rest knowing she had stayed true to herself. She had been respectful when disrespected, strong when attacked, calm in the storm. And really, that was all anyone could ask for.